Hello, everyone. Michael Jordan fans are the best. And today we're going to be talking about if it's the beginning of the end of the LeBron James GOAT narrative. But first, before we get into it, I want to welcome back the Roosters from last week first. But before that, or after that, uh, hey, we got AOH here. How are you doing today, sir?
Good morning. Hey, shout out to everyone across the entire world. I've got people chatting in from Italy, Brazil, Germany, Ohio, Denver. We got them pretty much the entire globe covered.
Worldwide, worldwide. Then we got Hoop God down here. How are you today, sir?
Oh man, it's a lovely afternoon. Ready to talk some sports, but at the end of the day, it's just basketball. It's just basketball.
Yep. And then we have the return of Uncommon Sense. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. I hope everybody is doing well, and I'm looking forward to this discussion here.
Welcome
Awesome.
back, Uncommon.
Good to be back.
And then people are asking about Sports and Fitness Rants not being here. He had a last minute thing come up, but I'm sure he will be back next week. Um, anyway, so AOH, do you think that this is the beginning of the end of the LeBron James GOAT narrative? Um, Due to the people that are dissenting that were backing him up for years, do you see other people starting to back off of the LeBron James GOAT narrative?
I do, but my political answer is not to the same extremes that some people think it's happening. I think it's going to be a slow death. I don't think it's going to be the sudden death. I just finished putting out a couple of videos that show that people are still capping for him. You know, much of the criticism that he gets comes with a but, and then they're still providing excuses. Um, and Reggie Miller's uh, another type of example, whereas he obviously left himself an escape route, with his initial comment. The second I heard him say it that way, I was like, okay, well, he left himself a way out, and he took the way out. I just think it's weird. It's frightening that people are that afraid. I don't know why people are that afraid. It makes you wonder what exactly is happening, because there was a time where your sports analysts liked to be mean. They liked ripping people apart. There was a time where if someone was asked the same question that Reggie was asked, they'd say, "Of course I'm talking about LeBron James. Who the hell else would I be talking about?" Because that's what everyone's thinking. It's blatantly obvious who it is, and yet he's still pussyfooting around. Why? Why? What exactly can be done to Reggie Miller at this point in his life? Are his kids in danger? What's happening?
No, I got you. I got you. Hoopga, what do you have to say about all this?
So I'm gonna echo a few things that AOH stated with the Reggie Miller take, because again he came out and made the comment, but he did it in a roundabout way. Like, he didn't directly say it. It's like you say enough things to get people thinking. It's thought provoking, but then it's like he won't just come out and say it. And then he goes on, was it the Dan Patrick or Bill Simmons, whichever one he went on.
Patrick.
And then he asked him a direct question. And then Reggie just, I'll leave it up to interpret. No, Reggie, just be a man. Stand on morals, stand on principles. But this society that we live in, I think they look at it more so as, hey, let me just kind of say it without saying it. That way I can weasel my way out, right? And I'm like, Reggie, you're a first ballot Hall of Famer, top 75, 50, like, you're in the club 50, 40, 90. Like, bro, you got enough credentials. Like, man, just say what you got to say, dog. Like, I don't get it. And not to digress, but Reggie even called him out in 2018 when he came up with that ridiculous hand injury. He even said that's a weak move, Braun. But for whatever reason, some organization in Clutch Sports, they tend to compromise people. But the way I'm looking at how this is going, see, when you have to put out narratives and agendas, you're paying people. when they're no longer being compensated, they no longer have something to gain. Oh, they're going to start to speak their mind. And I love what Kendrick Perkins said. Shout out to Big Perk, because he said what needed to be said. With all due respect, I'm sorry, but no, his son is just not ready for the league. And then it's like, why do you constantly have to bring LeBron into the conversation? He's not even in the playoffs. Like we don't want to hear about him. But no, somehow, some way, they have to continue to try to bring his name into the fold. But see, that can only go for so long. Again, when those funds start to run low and you're no longer cashing those NBA checks, more and more people are going to speak their mind unequivocally, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. But I agree with what you said, Dart, and AOH. I don't think it's gonna be like an avalanche, but it's gonna be bit by bit, piece by piece, like another person that he's associated with by the name of Diddy. Bit by bit, piece by piece, they're going to start to give us more and more information. So to sum it up, yes, this really, I wouldn't even say this is the beginning of the end, because I believe it started last year. But yes, it's ultimately, it's gonna crumble. Shout out to Uncommon, because that's one of his words. So, but that's all I got on that.
Uncommon, what do you got to say about all this?
Well, yeah, I think it's definitely on the way down. Now, I think I agree with everybody else. I don't know how fast that descent is going to be, but I definitely think. I mean, I feel like you can just see it. That number one is more and more people who are actually willing to say something. Now, whether they actually stand on it when they're confronted with it is one thing, but I think just the fact that more and more people will actually say anything negative about this guy, because I haven't heard this many people in such a short span actually say anything negative about this guy. I mean, to me, this guy always has an excuse. And, we always talk about LeBron and the excuses, but it's really LeBron and the media. Like, the media assists him with these excuses. So the fact that you saying more and more people come out, like I did the video on Rashad McCants. Shout out to AOH. I like that reaction you did to it. But like Rashad McCants, to me, I've been watching him over the last year, and he's always said, he would say some things here and there about LeBron, but you can tell he's just at the point to where it's just like, I'm sick of trying to sugarcoat stuff for this guy. And I feel like we're slowly seeing people reach there. Now, again, I agree with everybody else. We don't know how fast it's going to be the actual descent, but I definitely believe we are seeing the beginning of it.
I'll build on that. Those two examples given there, the Rashad McCants, you notice that the rest of the panel attacked Rashad, and Rashad had to stand his ground. So that's evidence that people are still ready to cap for LeBron James. He actually had to stand his ground as they tried to make excuses for him. And Perk, man, it hurts me to give Perkins credit, but not only did he call out the Bronny James thing, but the panel there started to try and go the other direction and say, oh, no, you're being too harsh. And Perk was like, no. And Perk said what we always say, like, why you guys got to start talking about fatherhood? Well, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And these ESPN analysts did the same thing that LeBron fans do. Like, oh, he's a great father, he's supporting his son. And Perkins like, what the hell does that have to do with whether or not he's ready to enter the NBA? So shit, there I was. I just complimented Big Perk. But my point is that this is in the middle of people still fighting for LeBron. So it's not going to be an easy death.
Yeah, to what all y'all are saying, I don't think it's going to be he's beheaded in respect to these next couple of years where people will just stop saying it. I do think that it's going to progressively get there. They're going to start getting more critical. And what was said right now about Big Perk talking about Bronny, and I've seen some stuff for the video game heads in there. He was saying that he wanted to have a 81 on the 2K game, which is laughable because, I mean, they didn't even start on his college team. So they're really trying to push that to happen, and in my opinion, really just for marketing purposes, that he's going to be able to play in the NBA with his dad, not for any sort of real aspect of him being a NBA caliber player. Or that's from the outside looking in, that it does not seem that he's going to be an NBA caliber player if he were to go into the league this year. And I'm just curious about some of the more. I mean, not that Big Perk isn't a diehard guy, and he was talking about, oh well, he's ruining his GOAT case by continuing to play. So that's another thing that he started talking about, let alone the Bronny stuff. And I'm just curious about who's going to follow suit next. Anyways, do you think that Nick Wright will ever get off of that horse? Do you think he's going to be one of those diehard LeBron guys until he dies?
I mean, that's pretty much his career. But then again, it was kind of Perk's career. So, but no, I can't picture that. I mean, Nick reacted violently to Reggie Miller. Hey, for any Bay Area people listening, I'll throw out another example. There's some dipshit named Damon Bruce who is on Bay Area sports radio broadcasting, and I'm about to release a video annihilating him this week. But he was talking about wanting LeBron to come to the Warriors, and his co-host was like, no, we don't want LeBron here. And the dude called LeBron a current top 10 in the NBA. A Bay Area sports analyst called LeBron a current top 10 in the NBA, and that he would trade away the Warriors' assets for LeBron in a heartbeat. So, he's one of the most hated people in the world in the Bay Area, and you've got a Bay Area dude capping for him. So there's some evidence that it's going to be a long road ahead. If you ever see Damon Bruce on the street, Bay Area people.
Who got what do you got to say? Do you think that Nick Wright will ever stop defending LeBron or claiming that he's the GOAT?
Well, as long as Nick Wright is cashing those checks, no, he won't stop. And then he actually what is the word I'm looking for? Did he implicate himself on his show? He said that I vaguely spoke with Rich Paul. I'm like, wait a minute, you're a sports analyst. Why are you vaguely speaking with LeBron's agent? Like, what? So you just told off on yourself. And the reason why I'm saying this, because Nick Wright is another one. Before he started getting those clutch checks, he didn't have LeBron up there. He actually said KD was the greatest player of all time. And he had Kobe and Jordan over LeBron. But I noticed when those clutch checks started coming in, his whole speech, his whole model, like everything changed. All of a sudden, LeBron passed Michael Jordan in 2016 with 3 less championships and 5 more finals losses. I'm like, wait, in what world is that even possible? But, they have to say what they have to say to stay on code. But no, whenever those clutch checks stop rolling in, he'll change his tune up. Now, I don't know what day that'll be, but no, you can tell these dudes are bought and paid for it, because when they're saying these things, you can just look at their face and tell, like, you don't even believe what you're saying. Like, you're saying this because you're being forced to say it. And it's just, it's so utterly ridiculous. And I'm just like, at this point, these dudes are just completely see-through. But it's like, they put him on this pedestal. He doesn't even come within 2/3 of the pedestal. We call out the nonsense. We're haters.
Yeah.
But no. To answer the question, to sum it up, when those clutch checks, when they start rolling in, he'll change his tune up.
Uncommon, you think Nick Wright's going to ever change his face on this topic?
If he does, it'll be like 20 years from now. I think Nick Wright is capable of changing if someone else like LeBron came along who was willing to sign checks to push the narrative, which hopefully won't happen. Hopefully LeBron, once he's out, hopefully another star won't come along who's signing checks to push that narrative. But Nick Wright, to me, he is the number one. Him and Shannon Sharp and some of these other people, I think either they've been lying so long that they believe it, or they've been lying so long that they couldn't really change their tune without looking completely ridiculous for the last decade or more of what they've been preaching on the air. So Nick Wright is, like I said, unless someone comes along who's willing to sign a bigger check, I don't think we're going to see it. And if we do, it'll be like 20, 30 years from now, once there's been several new faces of the league, and I think once LeBron James has been exposed to the point to where you would actually have to be ridiculous to still be believing the same things that he's saying now, we might see it, like I said, 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah, for me with the Nick Wright thing, it depends. I'm really kind of torn on what's going to happen to mainstream media, because you have some of these newer guys, the Nick Wrights of the world, the JJ Redicks, the Perkins. Some of them I don't think, and this might just be me being biased, I don't think they're going to last super long in mainstream media, especially guys like Kendrick Perkins, who takes about 15 minutes to say a sentence. But just to the point of it is that I think that I don't know if they're even going to last that long, if they're going to keep pushing it and it starts being the GOAT argument becomes more, see-through for LeBron James. I don't know how long they're going to last, because still it's a majority of people saying it's Michael Jordan, but you have some of these new guys coming. Are there going to be more new guys coming in now pushing the LeBron James GOAT narrative, or is it going to die out and they're going to start talking about the new guy, whether it be Jokic now or Wembanyama down the line? I don't know, because it doesn't seem like there's a ton of LeBron James as the GOAT guys out there. It still seems like they're Michael guys. But anyways, do you think there's going to be more LeBron as the GOAT guys coming in through mainstream media over the next couple of years, or do you think it's just going to taper off and the diehards are just going to get out of the scene eventually?
Gee, that's a good question. Like actual new analysts who enter the arena with the idea of keeping the LeBron thing going.
Yeah,
that's hard for me even to picture. I can see people pushing the longevity argument harder, like trying to legitimize the longevity argument and the stats harder. But I think the other exposure we're seeing is that people just like seeing harder battles being fought. Even if you don't like Jalen Brunson or the Pacers, people have enjoyed seeing people hustle and play defense and work hard. And it's just another shout back to when the NBA was more enjoyable to watch. And I see people with their hands up in the air, and LeBron people will be like, see, sorry, we have a massive delay here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's me or you, but I see for me, you're lagging a little bit. What were you saying? You said LeBron fans have their hands up in the air?
No, LeBron fans will point out current players who complain, have their hands up, flop. And while that might be true, I would still say that LeBron James paved the way for that. And until people clearly call LeBron out for it, and these young guys hear him getting called out for it, they might continue to think that that's a tactic to use in basketball.
What do you got to say about that, Hoop God?
I'm going to get off of Wi-Fi and see if that helps.
All right. Hey, Dart, hold on. I had a call come in. Can you repeat the question?
Do you think that there's going to be new mainstream sports media analysts or reporters that start pushing the LeBron James GOAT narrative, guys that are just coming in now? Or do you think that it's still going to, or the new guys are going to push Michael Jordan, Um, or what do you think about that? Do you think it's just going to die off with no newcomers coming in, or do you think there's going to be newcomers coming in pushing the LeBron is to go narrative?
So seeing how the media, what I can say, how consistent they are when it comes to starting to build up the new guy or guys. No, he's already on the backside now, and you can see that it's starting to disseminate because y'all gotta understand when LeBron was on the come up, they were trying to build him up, but the problem was each time they tried to build him up, he would like immensely let them down. And I'm saying that because again, in 2011, they were saying, "Oh, can LeBron finally get over the hump and can he pull off the three-peat?" Because again, he built his own team. But that 2011 meltdown, I mean, that right there alone already has 60% of the population convinced, like, no, you're never going to pass Michael Jordan. Now, when you got the other guys who attempt to make an excuse and try to get around it, right? That was their little glimmer of hope. But then you got the 2014 series. Oh, well, he went up against 4 Hall of Famers. Well, Tim Duncan was 37 and Manu was 35. Tony Parker was the only All-Star, ironically. The Miami Heat had 4 All-Stars, but yeah, I mean, I don't, you know. Then he goes back to Cleveland. They try to build him up again. He goes up 2-1 on the Warriors. Comes up short. I mean, Kyrie, Kevin Love, whatever that case is. I'm like, it's amazing how you go up 2-1 without Kyrie and Kevin Love, but against the same team, you go down 1-3. I mean, I don't. That's just backwards. But anywho, that was the one that they tried to build him up on. Okay. You led in all 5 major statistical categories, but when we go back and watch that series in real time, you could not make one shot within the last 5 minutes. And then we see you noticeably signaling for Kyrie to take the shot at the timeout. Well, no, you know, anybody who watches basketball just getting away from the stats, just the love of the game and the moments and the situations, you're not going to find Michael Jordan doing that. You're not going to find Kobe Bryant saying, yeah, get a ball to Shaq. No, they're going to be like, no, if I don't take this shot, then I'm going to create an easier shot for my teammates, but I'm not going to be over here signaling, you know, virtue signaling for somebody else. See, we all see that. We can't unsee that. And now that we got these other guys on the come up, in which I love it because that's a part of the media that I favor is when they do find a new guy or guys, they'll start to slowly, incrementally build them up. Nikola Jokic, Ant-Man, Victor Wembanyama. I can't think. It's a couple of more that just don't memory right now. But those are the main guys. And of course, don't let me forget Shaq Gilgeous-Alexander, because again, you have to start to build the new guys because you don't want to have the same person over and over and over again. Because again, what's going to happen? You're going to start losing ratings. And I think ESPN sees that. But you have the ones who are paid off by LeBron, so they're trying their best to keep him in that argument. But the problem is the words and actions aren't matching up. So it's like, damn, every time we try to put this guy up here, he lets us down. So they're going to slowly start to just pull away from him. And then you're going to see that they're going to, again, incrementally start to build the other people up. Now, Shannon Sharp, I believe he'll be the loudest voice trying to pound the table for LeBron, but eventually he'll get drowned out because, again, we're going to have another champion this year. So we're going to say, okay, this guy has not won a legitimate championship since 2016. Why is he always a talking point? No. Let's get away from him. We got to start to get Giannis and Jokic and whoever wins the chip this year, all these other guys. And then you got to include the Steph Curry factor. This guy matched you in rings in less time with less coaches on one team. And then in 2022, he led that team all the way to the championship without a top 75 teammate. With the teammate that you traded, ironically, Andrew Wiggins. So it's going to be like, wait a minute. This guy's not giving us ratings because we got other guys that need to be built up. So they're gonna have to get away from him if they want to keep the ratings going. If they want to keep their marketing, their viewership, because again, when you keep talking about somebody for so long, you're just going to people are going to just start to turn away. And the reason why I'm saying that, like, look at the YouTube now. You got just about any and everybody making their own content. Why? Because they're getting sick of the mainstream media. It's the same person over and over. Nobody wants to hear that. So sum it up, yeah, it's gonna come to an end. The only reason that he's getting the clicks and all this is because now he's got another scenario like the decision and when he went back to Cleveland. Oh, is LeBron gonna resign? Or yeah, and that's another thing. Not, I want to mention that too. He's trying to siphon off his son. He's trying to siphon off the energy of his son so to keep his name relevant. Why? Because if they talk about Bronny, then by osmosis, you have to talk about who? His father. So I'm seeing how he's moving, but again, every time he tries to be a puppeteer, it fails. Because again, Bronny, the the, the veteran expert said he's not NBA ready. And these are two veterans with years of experience. They went down every metric, every ability, and they were like, he's a poor man's Drew Holiday or Eric Bledsoe, whichever one they named. And it's like, bro, you about to play yourself. Like you trying so desperate to get your son into the league because what he wants that lasting image similar to Michael Jordan going out against Utah and Kobe Bryant winning the fifth chip, even though when he hit the 60 against Utah when he retired. But no, LeBron wants his lasting image as to what? I got to play with my son. That's his last glimmer of hope for a GOAT debate. But it's like your GOAT debate is fraudulent. It's bought and paid for. And you can't convince people who know better. But I mean, hey, if you want to try it, go ahead. But using your son, I mean, I just feel like that's like the absolute lowest move you could utilize. So, and to sum it up again, no, he's gonna use his son to stay relevant, but that's not even gonna. I hate to say it, but the same media that he's using to build him up, they're gonna tear him down when they ultimately see that he's just not an NBA level ready player. So, but I can't wait for it because I have my popcorn ready.
There's a super chat that came in from Will D. He says this is for all of you. I think it's probably going to AOH though, or how it's written at least. Going back to the last week when AOH mentioned using super chat money to fund a short film, pull the super chat money together, and all of you make that film happen. Great work. Yeah, that 4 producers, 4 directors, 4 visions. It's going to be like the new Star Wars trilogy. But anyway, what AOH? What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, I'll just every documentary needs a talking head. So you guys just put on your suits and get some good lighting and record a nice little audio clip, and we'll put it in there. And I'll add some dramatic music and cut to the footage of LeBron being disgusting.
I would be down for that. That'd be cool. Yeah.
LeBron. It's not LeBron's disgustingness also helps you see when other people aren't disgusting. I watched the Mavs and Thunder yesterday, and I thought that the Thunder for a young team showed some pretty good poise. And I thought Shea kept battling, and he didn't do anything that made me want to like say, "Oh man, don't do that." I want to give some credit to Shea. And I also want to give credit to Kyrie Irving. I don't know if he went to some master class about how to speak to the media, but like the last few times I've seen him get interviewed, it's all about gratitude and being humble and positivity, and it's nice. Good for you, Kyrie. You guys notice this?
No.
No.
No,
I haven't been watching it, but
yeah,
yeah.
I've noticed it. No, AOH. No, I not only do I not like what Kyrie's doing, but it speaks to who he was in Cleveland and how he was depicted for us to ultimately perceive him in a negative light when it was nothing but a lie. But yeah, I see it and I salute Kyrie, man.
Uncommon. What's your take on the new mainstream media talking heads coming in? Do you think that they're going to go and they're going to start supporting LeBron, or do you think they're going to go away from that and start doing Michael Jordan, or keep supporting Michael Jordan, the new guys, the young guys?
I think it's kind of hard to say. I think for business sake, I would have to say that they're probably going to let that LeBron narrative go just for the simple fact that, I mean, in 20 years of trying to push that narrative, he hasn't successfully replaced Michael Jordan as the GOAT. And I think one thing that's interesting, if you look at the players who they compare to LeBron James, and you look at the players, like the minute a new exciting player comes in who has some competitive drive, he still immediately gets compared to Michael Jordan. Whereas to me, if you look at some of the players they've compared to LeBron, like a Ben Simmons, a Zion Williamson, I think it's very interesting that these players tend to actually have some LeBron attributes, and that's not maximizing their talent for the game. And so, for the sake of uh, for the sake of making money, I think the NBA is going to continue to go with the product that's actually going to make them the most money. And hold on, I'm seeing some people. Is my mic crunchy over to you? It still is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounded good at first, and then as soon as you got when we got on the show, it sounded bad again.
Okay, let me try something.
Eastby says your mic sounds like a bowl of Rice Krispies. Snap, crackle, pop. It happens. But yeah,
Well, what about?
it's still static.
Okay, I'm gonna get off here for a second and try to make some changes.
Okay. Somebody says, "Dart, wake up." But yeah, we can hear you, but it's just not perfect. There's static and stuff. But yeah, take the blanket off the phone. So just some of these comments are kind of funny. But yeah, with all that said, AOH, what do you find is the most entertaining thing about, because I think it's funny because I was talking about this the other night too, is that some of the transitions of the Kobe, people were talking about Kobe being the next GOAT before the Colorado thing. And just, I guess probably throughout time too, excuse me, that probably happens every so often. But what do you think, outside of LeBron with the longevity, with some of these new up and comers, let's say Wembanyama maybe, or Ant, what do you think they're going to start saying about them, about why they're the GOAT? If they ultimately transition away from LeBron?
Wemby's good on camera. He's pleasant enough. He hasn't really done anything to make people criticize him off the court, his off the court behavior. So as long as he can deliver on the court, then the media has both of those things going in their favor. So, that makes him a good candidate. Who's the other person that you suggested?
Ant Edwards, a guy that they're talking about lately.
Yeah, I mean, Ant's pretty likable. We kind of talked about this last week. I was giving Edwards props. So yeah, so here's what's on my mind. You realize the Lakers, if they give LeBron James this next contract, will have spent $500 million on him? No, I'm not kidding. It's going to be $500 million that the Lakers have spent just in salary on LeBron James. And one of the narratives that's going to have to change is that it was worth it because of what he delivered to Los Angeles. I've heard Stephen A. Smith say that he delivered a championship and it was worth it. Or you hear people say that he makes them relevant and therefore it's worth it. I mean, these things are both ridiculous. Any team that gives away as many draft picks and spends as much money as the Lakers have, could have gotten a championship with a different player. And you heard Rick Bucher actually point out that LeBron James is only good because of what he made. If more people actually acknowledge that not only was that bubble ring not legit in the first place, but LeBron James really didn't have very much to do with it other than being along for the ride and costing the Lakers a lot of money. And then the next several years, I think that's going to, if people acknowledge that, that's going to hurt LeBron James badly.
What do you real fast? Michael Watts gave AOH a super chat, but after that, Hoop God, if you want to go and you want to address what AOH had said about all of that, he says to AOH for $2, is it Adam Silver changing the LeBron narrative?
Like, did he cause this?
Do you think that? Yeah. Do you think Adam Silver is trying or he's pushing for the LeBron narrative to change?
Oh, like going forward, will Adam Silver push the other direction? I guess I don't understand the question. Will
Like
Adam?
a new,
Will
yeah.
Adam?
Well, a new guy, yeah.
Oh, I guess so. Um, I I don't know what to think of Adam Silver. I mean, he's weird. He's like a bad parent that doesn't know how to discipline children. This NBA is just run amok. But when it's time to move on, he's still a businessman. I don't think. Then again, I think it's been time to move on a while ago, and they've stuck with trying to ride a dead horse. So, geez, I got to say, you got me on that one. He doesn't seem like he's making good decisions right now, but at some point, even he's going to have to wake up.
Absolutely. Hoop guy, what do you have to say about what AOH has said? Uncommon, I got you. I have you up on max volume right now, so you will come in loud, hopefully
All right,
clear
say it
as
again,
well.
Dark.
For what AOH was saying about the Lakers spending $500 million on LeBron James and not really turning out with anything except for this bubble championship, he was along for the ride. Do you agree with that? Is there anything you want to add to that or comment on in general?
Well, see, that's again, it's par for the course when you're dealing with somebody like him because he wants all these players. This player doesn't fit. He got to go. This coach don't fit. He got to go. He wants the max contract and all this. He wants everything his way, but not even realizing like, okay, you're tearing the franchise down from within. Like you can't just bring guys in because he'll beg for them to go get somebody like a Westbrook, for example. They'll ship him off to the Clippers, and Westbrook still has money on his contract from the Lakers that they got to pay him. Okay. Then you get Kyle Kuzma and Alex Caruso and all you get these guys out of there. Not understanding that the Lakers still have to pay these guys. But then when it doesn't panel out, now you want other guys to come in. It's like this guy, he never has enough help. He can never get the right coach. It's always something. He wants the max. He won't take any less. But then ultimately, when the shit hits the fan, well, it's just basketball at the end of the day. It's just who does that? I mean, anybody with, I would say, the remote level of common sense, how could you support a guy or even be in favor of a guy who conducts himself like that? Like you're pretty much hijacking the Lakers' salary, but you don't want to acknowledge it. You want to put the blame on Rob Pelinka. I'm like, it's amazing how the universe works. When he doesn't play, they beat the Bucks and they beat the Celtics. He plays, they struggle to beat these teams. Like, okay, we see what the problem is, but I understand what they're doing. See, he just having him there, it does generate enough revenue that it's to a certain degree, it's kind of mutually exclusive. The Lakers know they can get the revenue based off him being there, but when it comes to trying to get all these players, well, they're constantly going to be over the cap, are going to have to go into the luxury tax because when one guy does not fit his style of play in his system, he wants him out of there, and that's another reason why he could never be a goat, a truly goat candidate because all of the goats understood that they had to modify their game for their teammates. It's not the other way around. When you try to force your teammates to play off of you, that's a recipe for disaster. Because again, look what's going on. You win the quote unquote bubble ring, right? Now, to me, that was the best assembled team that they should have just kept together. Well, no, it didn't work out because you got bounced in the first round in the next season. Well, now you ship out all of your 3-and-D defenders, which would help going against the teams they're playing against now. Oh, they would help out tremendously. KCP, Alex Caruso, Kyle Kuzma when he got his head on straight, Dwight Howard as far as a low post presence. No, you got all those guys out of there because you want to spread the floor for shooters because he can only play one way. He's got to lower his head and freight train to the goal, and if the defense collapses, he's going to make a long kick-out pass and just expect somebody to hit a shot. That's AAU basketball. But no, I agree with AOH wholeheartedly. He's the reason why the Lakers are in the situation that they're in as far as the cap and the players, because he wants all these players, and then he still wants the max. It's like, no, you can't have it both ways. You got to sacrifice something. But you got to understand, somebody who's been entitled like him and just giving everything, he doesn't see it from that perspective. He just sees it like, this is what I want. We got to make it happen. I don't care. All right, that's fine, but in reality, it doesn't work that way. So.
Uncommon. I don't know if you've tried to do a mic check. If you have, could not hear you. Can you hear us, Uncommon? All right, I think he's. All right, let's see. We got another super chat that came in from Hakan Carlson. I do not know that currency, but without, and I don't know who it's to, I just know it's not to me. Without the narrative, LeBron would have done better, honest critique, and he might have done something about it without the excuses. Thoughts? Do you want to start with that? Or actually, I'll start with that. I guess we'll just go around the horn with it. Yeah, I think if he was able to receive criticism better, then especially with his game, I think it could have improved over time. I'm not saying it hadn't in any way, but drastically changing, not integrating a great mid-range game or post game is something that definitely would have benefited him over time. I just feel like he leaned a lot on what he was good at first, and then really just didn't change much when he had the opportunity to over his career. Not to say he didn't get better at all, but just not drastically with a new skill set. Nothing new, I guess, or drastically new. What do you have to say, AOH?
That is exactly why I find myself sort of cheering against Shea and Anthony Edwards, because I'm thinking, not yet. Don't give it to them yet. I don't want their development to be damaged by success too early, which is kind of like not giving them credit to have the personality to develop their game anyway, even if they did win. But after seeing LeBron James, that's that he didn't necessarily deserve. I want to see character built in today's players that we're hopeful for. I would hate to see these guys that we are ready to watch in the next several years go down the LeBron path and just have too much success too soon and not continue to develop themselves.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
And
still static?
I don't hear static.
Okay. Good.
But yeah, Uncommon. What do you think about this LeBron thing in the for the super chat right here?
Let me read it again. I think that's possible. It definitely would have been better for his image. That's for sure. If it would have made him a better player, I'm not sure, just because, again, LeBron was kind of ruined right from the very beginning. He had everything handed to him. And I think because of that, that kind of really set him on the path that he was going down. I think I just talked about this as far as, When you come in with $100 million contract, when you come in with the label, the chosen one, it's like, what else do you have to prove? It's like when people critique you, it's like, oh, well, I just got $100 million contract. If people critique you, it's like, I'm the chosen one. If I'm not winning, it must be something else besides me. So yeah, I'm not sure if that would have actually made him a better player, but had the media not pushed all these narratives, maybe he would be seen in a different light. Maybe it wouldn't be so many people who despise him. But yeah, I'm not sure if he would have done better.
What do you got to say about all this, Hoop God?
Say that again, Dart.
The super chat. Without the narrative, LeBron would have done better. Honest critique, and he might have done something about it without the excuses. What do you think about that?
So I'm gonna look at that from two view. Like I'm gonna look at it from an objective standpoint and a subjective. Objectively speaking, I believe he possibly could have, but then it's like this. How do we know? Because just like Uncommon Sense said, this is a guy that's accustomed to getting handouts, getting favors, getting graded on the curve. And when that's the only thing that you're accustomed to getting, then you don't really know how to quote unquote get it out the mud like a Michael Jordan, like a Kobe, Tim Duncan, and so on and so forth. So had he not had the narratives put on him, I really can't say because again, him and pressure, they don't mix. It's like oil and water. But then again, he loves attention so much. It's kind of like he'll have to do something to get the lights and the camera and all the media in his face, But I just look, if I just break this down on two standpoints, I can't say that he could because again, he's been accustomed since AAU. Okay, we'll give you this. You can have this. You can do this. You can do that. But when he got to Miami, he got in a situation again where Pat Riley held him accountable. Ultimately, he had his most success. Now, I don't see Cleveland getting him a Pat Riley type of coach at that time before he, had to link up with Dwayne Wade, who was a champion, by the way. So I would have to go out on a limb and say, even without the narrative being pushed, unless he got a teammate like a Dwayne Wade to open up his home, so to speak, and say, hey, come over here. I'm going to show you the blueprint. And then, you go off from there. Because again, just looking at this guy's now, the way his mentality is set up, he wants to be giving things versus earning things. And when he doesn't get his things, he acts like a petulant 3-year-old, having temper tantrums. So no, I don't think he would.
All right. Sandman Morrison, I didn't see this, so if I apologize if I missed this, but I believe this is to AOH. But yeah, $10 US. Asked us in previous super chat that was missed. But how do we get clutch sports out of the NBA? They have too much power and are negatively affecting the game. What do you say about this, AOH?
How did they get in? We need to understand how they got in order to get out, because it is interesting, and it's maybe it's hinged upon people deciding it was okay to expect immediate success, that there was nothing wrong with going and teaming up with the enemy, which was blasphemy to us old heads. It's just not what sports is about. You don't find a way out by going and joining the opposition. And these things all kind of happened around the same time. But the fact that LeBron James can be expecting $160 million from the Lakers, playing as poorly as playing, while not even verbally committing to coming back, the fact that he can hold the Lakers over his knee like that, man, that's something's up there. Something extra is going on, and I don't want to hear about making the Lakers relevant. You could put us on the court and people would still come to the Lakers game at least for a while until you fix the situation.
Uncommon or Hoop Guy, do you want to comment on this at all?
Yeah, I really don't know what the answer is to that. I guess the question is how much of the NBA is going to actually be recoverable after this whole era is over, because to me they seem to be so ingrained. And then also at this point, with Adam Silver being the commissioner, is like there is no accountability in the NBA period. So like a lot of these things that needs fixing, I'm not. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin to answer that. Um,
Exactly.
go.
Are we going to decide that player empowerment is good or bad? Because you got a lot of people saying, "Oh, these guys deserve this," and you got other people that recognize that this might be why it's so unwatchable now. So they're gonna have to wear parent pants and get out the belt and say, you know what, we tried to appease you guys, and it actually hurt the game of basketball. But who's gonna have the balls to be like, sorry, you're a star, but you're not going to get your way anymore. So this is one of the reasons why LeBron retiring won't necessarily save the NBA. I think it happened with LeBron James, but moving forward, you're going to have to draw a line in the sand between player empowerment and competition and what's good for the game of basketball. Does it?
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
I would say, yeah, I think that's actually a great point, because I think the thing is and it's human nature, is people never expect the worst until it happens. This is like in 2020 when the pandemic happened, no one would have ever thought that we were going to have a pandemic. It's like people assume that the NBA is in a safe position. And my thing with this whole player entitlement thing is people have to decide, to me, is immediate gratification versus the longevity of the NBA. That's the way I see it. So it's like, for the people who support this, players getting as much money as possible and having all this power, to me, you have to decide are you for them basically being selfish and collecting as much as they can, or are you thinking about the NBA 20, 30 years from now? Because if the NBA collapses, then, again, people never think it can happen unless it happens. If the NBA collapses, then was all this worth it? Or are you just going to be saying, well, LeBron James got to make as much money as he could, and such got to make as much money as he could, but now we don't have a product at all? So I think this is what people are going to have to decide. Is like, are you with the immediate gratification, or are you thinking about longevity of the product, longevity of the NBA?
Absolutely. Hoop God, do you have anything to add to this, or?
Yeah, I'm just gonna be short and swift with this one. If Adam Silver is going back to a patriarchal standard such as David Stern and holding these dudes accountable, then yes. But if he's gonna continue to embrace this player empowerment and let them just have their way with this new CBA, then no, it's gonna get even worse.
Yeah, I think the whole thing with this too is that clutch sports in itself is kind of in a way like the Legion of Doom for the NBA. It seems like they're just conspiring to go and get over on everybody. And then talking about the player empowerment, I do think that there has to be a fine line of getting what you're worth versus just cheesing around. Especially with the you could tell that with the All-Star game is that they're not really playing. Even looking through the regular season games, it seems like they're really just going through the motions to the playoffs. So whatever that fine line is, I think it should be they should toe that, or they should be on that line. We got another super chat that came in for Uncommon. It says, I would hate to see the new talent corrupted by clutch sports by having them not to train and develop their skill. $5. What do you have to say about that, Uncommon?
Well, I feel like anything touched by clutch sports is essentially corrupted. Uh, but I think it says something that I thought I heard that Anthony Edwards was with Clutch Sports and he left. So I just think it's interesting that a player who is actually competitive, you know, left Clutch Sports, because to me, Clutch Sports isn't about competition. Clutch Sports is actually about excuses and narratives. So, and I've said this, to me, with every new exciting player that comes into the NBA, like this is what you have to worry about. You have to worry about is the culture of the NBA going to eventually rub off on them in a few years. Like I said, a lot like Giannis. You know, I was a Giannis fan, but like the last few years, it seemed like he's kind of taken on this more LeBron like attitude than he had in previous years. So I think that is always the worry, is that will his new talent be affected by the current culture of the NBA, which is heavily influenced by Clutch Sports.
Absolutely. I got a super chat from Fido So Fly for $4.99. How many points would MJ have if he went to the NBA from high school and didn't retire twice? So I think him going to college was really good for him. I think that helped develop a lot of his skill sets. I think that he was around the right coach, the right teammates, to help develop his skill to get to the next level. Because his first year in the NBA, he scored the most points for an individual player in the NBA that year. I don't think he would have done that coming straight out of high school. I think him coming from high school may have changed the entire trajectory of his career. Now, to the second part of that question, if he didn't retire twice, definitely a lot more. I don't think there's a real answer to that because he may have gotten injured. He may have had a less productive season. The teams might have changed, even more, just the team dynamics. There's so many variables to it. But in short, he would have scored a lot more, yeah. But I think the high school thing, that might have affected his totals if he had done the whole thing and didn't retire twice. I don't know if that would have been a good thing for him. What do y'all think about that? Do you think if Michael came straight out of high school, he would have had the same career?
I'm gonna say no, only because he needed to go to UNC and how to actually play within that team structure and develop his skills. Now, in high school, I think he was a great athlete, but he still hadn't had that proper coaching, as far as being on that collegiate level. And I think when you skip that hurdle, let's look at all the guys who came out of high school and look how long it took for them to ultimately start to become winners. I mean, look at LeBron, for example. It took him, 9 years? Kevin Garnett, he came out of high school, phenomenal talent, but he didn't start winning until he got to Boston, and that was 2007. He got drafted in 95, so that's 12, 13 years. Kobe Bryant, now he won early, but a lot of people forget Kobe was coming off the bench for his first 3 seasons behind Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel. I don't know about Moses Malone per se. I would have to go look him up, but I know he didn't win his first chip until he got to Philly. So just that whole coming out of high school, I understand why. I mean, if you have the ability and the talent, but I really believe that if you don't even get that 1 year of college, it kind of marginalizes like your like developmental process. Because prime example, look at Dwayne Wade. 4 years at Marquette, gets to the league, boom, 3rd year he's a champion. Then we can look at Tim Duncan. 4 years in college, boom, gets to the NBA, 2nd year, champion. Look at Magic Johnson, 2 years in college, gets to the NBA, 1st year, rookie, champion. Look at Larry Bird, 2 years of college, gets to the NBA, 2nd year, champion. So just looking at the previous guys, I believe when you skip that collegiate aspect, it's like you're not allowing yourself to develop. It's like you can't just jump on and just start riding a bike. You got to have training wheels. Once you learn the training wheels, take the training wheels off, now you can ride the bike. But that's just my take on it.
All right. Do either of you have anything to add? I need some coffee. This is one thing that I made a mistake of this morning, is not being prepared with caffeine.
We don't have Robin, who is our human coffee.
Yeah.
Energy. I'll answer that differently. Would would him not going to college have changed his approach to the game? Because I don't remember ever being concerned about how many points Michael Jordan had until they made a big deal out of LeBron James having a lot of points. Having the most points wasn't ever Michael Jordan's goal. And there's something that's been on my mind. I'm trying to figure out how to put this into a video in the best way. LeBron fans will sometimes like to point out Jordan getting swept by the Celtics to counter the fact that LeBron has gotten swept. Of course, one was in the finals, the others were in the first round, which I don't think are comparable in the first place. But does this mean that Michael Jordan would have a better argument if he had just not even made the playoffs and not had to go through facing the Celtics? Like, so now you guys can't say that he got swept, but he wouldn't have been Michael Jordan. It's the fact that he wanted to compete against the odds that made people like him. I don't give a shit what his point total is. It's the fact that he wasn't afraid of the challenge.
Absolutely. Uncommon, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think what LeBron fans just really, and I'm starting to realize that these guys just really don't have any concept for overcoming anything. Like, this is where the disconnect is that they don't understand that the whole reason that 20 years after playing his last game as a Wizard, why LeBron James is still chasing this guy is because Michael Jordan, I mean, was the ultimate competitor in the sense that he wanted to overcome. It's just like, when he broke his foot, they didn't want him to play. I know you fanboys wouldn't understand anything about this. Like, he broke his foot. They did not want him to play. And, again, the whole story about the doctor saying it's a 10% chance that he could mess up his foot and never play again, and him being adamant about playing, like him sneaking away from the NBA, going back to college to play, to run games and whatnot. Just the fact that he was so hell-bent on playing anyway and competing against a team that he was severely overmatched against, to me, that is what makes Michael Jordan. That is why 20 years later, he's still seen as the GOAT. And this is why LeBron James has needed narratives to try to even enter the conversation. Because let's make no mistake, the only reason that LeBron James is in the conversation has nothing to do with basketball. It has everything to do with the narratives being pushed.
Absolutely. I've seen people commenting about my Roosters again. They will be making their last appearance next week before I move again for the 1 millionth time in my life. But yeah, no, that's me with the Roosters. But yeah, AOH, you said you had to get going, or?
Yeah, I'm going to have to sign off in a second. I would like to ask you guys a question, and I know people will say that this is a biased panel, but speaking of protecting LeBron James, I don't think he should have ever survived in the GOAT debate following Miami. And I just want to ask you guys if you can think of another player who has failed as badly as he did in the 2011 finals. And I'm serious. It's not just that he has that as a blemish and it was bad. Has anyone ever failed worse?
I would say absolutely not. Number one, just because of all the circumstances that surrounded it. Like I said, I mean, the self-made super team, first of all, self-made, he chose this. Despite what LeBron fans want to say, not only did he choose it, but when he chose it, you could tell by the hype around it, you could tell by the way he was speaking, by the way Dwayne Wade was speaking, that they literally thought they had the magic formula. So they knew it was a super team. I don't care what any of you fanboys say. They knew it. That's why they were so cocky about it. They knew that they had 3 of the top 10 talents in the NBA at the time. They knew this. So the fact that they chose a super team, they were cocky about it, and then LeBron James had that performance. Yeah, to me, I can't think of anybody, and maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong, that had that kind of a meltdown, that had that, not only was it a meltdown, but like I said, given the circumstances, it was even more monumental because this is what they chose. They were cocky about it, and it was a complete failure.
Yeah. So for me, because I recently had a debate with somebody, LeBron James versus Magic Johnson, and one of the things that they always say about Magic Johnson is that he couldn't play defense, and they say that LeBron James could. I want to know if LeBron James, and I think they both are good help defenders, and that's where most of their stats came from on paper, or just from the eye test. But I want to understand, if LeBron was such a great defender, how did he let Jason Terry cook him so bad? Um, let alone just his statistical output. You're talking about him failing and just the meltdown. His statistical output went so down as well. So it's terrible. As a meltdown in whole, yeah, I would say that's probably number one. I mean, you can look at um, other years where people lost when they should have won. You could say that the Spurs, even against the Heat, that they melted down, or amongst others, the Lakers of the 60s versus the Celtics about 8 times. But just to the point of it is that no, I don't think there's anything bigger. And then people are saying the tragic Johnson. I still think it's got to be the LeBron series with the Mavs. What about you, Hoop God?
Oh yeah, yeah. As I said earlier, no, you can't proclaim yourself to be one of the greatest defenders, or you allegedly got robbed, playing my violin for him. Oh, poor baby. When you allowed Jason Terry to like embarrass you on the biggest stage, I mean, when I say you just can't unsee things, like when I'm having a bad day, I go put on the 2011 finals. I instantly feel better. I'm just saying, like, we all have to find our positive endorphins and ways to cheer ourselves up. And I'm looking at that like, wait a minute. You're 26 in the absolute prime of your career, and you are getting thoroughly outplayed by a 34-year-old guy, which Jason Terry is great, by the way, because I don't want anybody to misrepresent me in the comments. No, Jason Terry was a great player, but a 26-year-old and a 34-year-old, it shouldn't even be a fair fight. And I mean for the 26-year-old. But that clearly showed that his mental prime was still underdeveloped, because he was just getting beat off simple like basketball maneuvers where, bro, you can't stop this guy. But you just switched off on Derrick Rose in the 2011 playoffs in what, game 3 or game 4. And I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know, you guys may have seen something I ain't seen, but is Derrick Rose not more of a phenomenal athlete than Jason Terry? Was he not the MVP? I mean, that's something you just can't unsee. So no, that performance alone put the death nail in his whole defensive campaign. And there's multiple series, like I don't even have to go through all that, like where he was supposed to be this guy that can guard 1 through 5, but at every point and every turn that he's supposed to do it, he got thoroughly embarrassed. So no, that 2011 did it for me.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much, and thanks everyone who tuned in. AOH is out.
Have a good one. Take it easy, bro.
Hey, have a good one, man.
All right, we'll take a couple calls, and then yeah, we'll get this thing turned down. But I'm dropping the link for anybody that wants to join. I would it's easier to come onto my my channel to go and access the link, or otherwise you can copy paste it if you're on somebody else's channel. I'm on Michael Jordan Fans Are the Best, and if you like my channel, please subscribe on the way in, as Uncommon Sense would say. So we got a super chat though as well. I'm going to drop the link right now. But we have a super chat from many styles, records, I believe it's to uncommon. He says, why do people ignore the 2014 Spurs beating the Heat? They choked in that one too, but media totally ignores that season. And the season of 2018, he quit. What do you have to say about that, uncommon?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's the media ignores a lot about LeBron James, but to me, I think that's just an example of the thing that we talk about. And actually, I actually kind of wanted to address the whole LeBron James being a good defender thing. To me, LeBron James is not a good defender. LeBron James has had good defensive plays, but a lot of people talk about him not being a good on ball defender, but he's a good help defender. No, he's not either. I was watching some old Chicago games the other day, and when you watch Michael Jordan on the court, not only is he locked on his man, but you can tell he's like looking around the court, waiting to help out the weaker players on his team. With LeBron James, he is not really a great help defender. He has made some good steals, and whatnot. He has made some blocks, but LeBron James is never fully engaged enough to be a great defender at all times, because defense, to me, takes more effort than anything else, arguably. LeBron James does not have that focus. He doesn't have that competitive drive to actually be a great defender. I think LeBron James as a defender has been overhyped, and I think a lot of times the whole 2014 series gets overlooked because LeBron James has so many other things that you could talk about that are flaws to his resume. But yeah, I think that's a good point.
Absolutely. We got Phil backstage. Let's bring him on if it'll go. I can't wait till I get my computer. Phil, welcome, Phil. How are you today?
I'm doing all right, guys.
You got a question for the panel or a comment?
Kind of, you could say that. The one thing that I actually watched the program that you did with Coach James Kingdom, and it was just fascinating that he was just it. Okay, my thing is, a lot of LeBron James fans who thinks he's the GOAT use stats to try to prove that. LeBron has a lot of stats. They become what I call statisticians. And when you have a finals record as poor as LeBron has, you have to become a statistician and use all these stats to try to prove that he's better. But when it boils down to it, I just don't see um, that will to win, that competitiveness that is greater than what MJ had. Because they'll say that stats don't tell the whole story, which they don't, because you can't really measure somebody's will to win, the effort they put in day by day. Now, I'm not saying that LeBron, doesn't put in any effort, but what I will say is that there was no way in hell that his will to win, his killer instinct was more than what MJ had. There's just no way. And you can prove that by just looking up how many stories former players had of him of him just proving them wrong. They could talk trash to him, and he'll come and talk the talk and walk the walk, and he'll annihilate you. They call him the Black Cat for a reason. They call him Black Jesus for a reason. I don't. What nicknames do players have for LeBron James? I mean, it's not. I mean, in my mind, it's not really close. LeBron is a great player, but it just blows my mind when people, or I don't want to say bronzexuals, but I guess that's what they call them, when they try to use stats. And I mean, they have all the stats. I mean, on top of the other. But when it comes down to that will to win, I'm taking MJ all day, every day in a one-on-one and in a 7-game series. It doesn't matter, because as LeBron James has proven, 2011. I mean, we could even go back to that Boston series the year before that. They were up 2-1. They had 66 victories. I mean, 60 win teams back to back, and he didn't have no help. He didn't have nothing. How do you win 60 games? Oh well, it's because of LeBron James they won 60 games. Okay, it's because they won 60 games with LeBron James, but they can't win the NBA. They can't win the championship because of LeBron. That makes no sense to me. Or what it tells me is, was the competition that bad that him by himself won 60 games back to back years in Cleveland before he went to Miami. But when it boils down to it, in my opinion, it just you just give me all the stats. As he was saying, I was listening to him, King James Kingdom. LeBron James has a plus minus of this. LeBron James is greater than this. LeBron James is a 3 point. LeBron James has two dicks instead of one. Michael Jordan only has one dick. I mean, come on, seriously. When it comes down to it, you look inside of LeBron's heart, you look inside of Jordan's heart, you're gonna see that dog, somebody that was cut from his high school team to overcome that and use that sheer fire inside of him to become the greatest, to be better than his peers. There was no question that he was the best player during his time. With LeBron James, you could argue Steph Curry, you could argue Kobe Bryant. He didn't win more championships than none of those guys that was in his era. And he
Yeah.
wasn't unquestionable. I mean, you could say he was the best player, but it wasn't without question. You had others as well that were almost basically on his level. And he didn't prevent them from winning championships. Who did he prevent from winning championships? Hall of Famers. So
Absolutely. Uncommon sense. What do you have to say about what Phil had to say? What do you think about the statistician argument and then everything else that was said about it?
Again, I think we all know that stats really tell you a very limited. It's limited as far as what it actually tells you about players. Because I mean, there's several players that you can pick out who have similar stats, but there's no question that they all have completely different effects on the game. Um, yeah, I think LeBron James. I feel like the narrative that you hear about a player consistently really tells you a lot. And again, to me, with Michael Jordan, like you would hear about the hard work and practice, like you would hear about the competitiveness, like you would hear about the killer instinct. Like these are what people commonly talk about Michael Jordan. Like these are the traits that they talk about. With LeBron James, you always hear he spends $1 million a year on his body. Well, so what? What does that really mean about him playing basketball? You never hear the constant, LeBron James is this competitive in practice, or LeBron James, you never hear about these competitive kind of traits to describe LeBron James. So to me, that really tells you everything you need to know about LeBron James is the fact that aside from that you hear about the multitude of players that seem to beat this guy in one-on-one, for someone who's supposed to be bigger, stronger, and faster. So I think the things that you constantly hear about a player, from the inside. Again, LeBron James, we never constantly hear about stories of his competitiveness. We never constantly hear stories about his work ethic outside of him keeping himself in shape, which is, sounds like it could be some alternative means to him doing that as well. But with Michael Jordan, we always heard about the competitiveness. We always heard about the killer instinct. We heard about these things that actually contribute to being a competitive player and, and overcoming obstacles. This is what we heard about Michael Jordan. And just the fact of that alone should tell all you LeBron James fans all you need to know about your false king.
Hoop guy, what do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I like that term that he used, the statisticians. I call them the IT guys because they have some type of number sequence to justify why he lost this finals and how come he didn't do. I'm like this, and I get to this point, right? When you have to revert to trying to use stats to protect somebody coming up short, what it tells me is that those stats had no value. Prime example, the 2014 finals, and this is one that triggers a lot of them. when you look on the surface, you would say, oh, well, he played a great series. He was actually efficient from the field, and he had a nice free throw percentage, which I give him credit for that because normally he's a horrible free throw shooter. But, he shot 40% from three, blah, 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 blah. He had a negative 47 plus minus. They'll say that's a team stat. I'm like, if that's a team stat, how come everybody's not a negative 47? But then we'll go further, right? So out of LeBron's 141 total points scored, if I'm not mistaken, over 60% of those points, total points, came when they were already losing by a 16 or 17 point deficit, which does what? Give credence to them losing that finals by the largest margin. That was a 70-point margin divided by what 5 games? So it was 15 points per game. Came out to 70 because 15 times 5 would come to 70. So now I have to ask this question. So why wasn't he putting up these big numbers when the game was within reach? Because now I have to go back and look, and what I was able to find out, because again, I'm using their logic. They look at numbers, right? But they won't contextualize those numbers. So when they were down by 15 points or more, he was only giving them 1 point per game per possession. I'm like, oh, that's horrible. That's what we call hollow stats. But see, then when you bring it to the table, they can't address that. What do? They get personal. Oh, well, you're a hater. How am I hating when he's the one who wasn't putting the numbers up when the game was within reach? Oh, it's the team's fault. Okay, but that same team helped him get to the finals. Like, they're so ridiculous, but no. That's one reason why when I'm having these dialogues with people, I say we must use context with these numbers, because if you just throw numbers out there, then you can just say whatever, and you're not actually giving the production and how the stats were ultimately accumulated. Because again, I could look and see somebody like I'll just throw a number like Chauncey Billups. Okay, he gave you 15 points per game, but if Chauncey Billups hit 2 of the biggest shots in that game, then I would value that well over somebody giving you 28 points per game and only giving you 1 point in the fourth quarter. So that's why I say you must use context. I know another topic that they love, the longevity and blah blah blah, but I'm like, okay, so let's do some calculations here. He only won 4 times out of his 21 years. So if we use basic math, like I know they struggle with, 4 out of 21 that's a 19%. So you only won championships at 19% of your 21-year career versus Michael Jordan, who was winning championships over 40% of his career. Where is that even remotely close? I mean, I'm trying to figure it out. Like, where's the argument? I just don't get it. But yeah, they have every statistical metric for this situation and that situation, but for some reason, when it gets to the finals, I think LeBron eats too many Popeyes biscuits because he can't deliver when the team needs him in those crucial moments. Hey, shout out to Ray Allen, shout out to Kyrie Irving. Because without those guys, no, he don't even have 4 championships. I'm sorry, but yeah, hey, I like that statistician that you brought up, bro. That's a good point.
Well, and that's the thing is it kills me. And Travis will come on here. The T Perfect guy will come on here fairly regularly, and it's whatever anyone's opinion is, that's fine. But it's not just him. I know it's them too. They talk about all these stats, and then they'll go and they'll especially the advanced stats. And if you look at some of these advanced stats, there's so many contradictions when you'll say that LeBron was a great defender, but Magic Johnson wasn't. Or Jokic isn't a great defender, but he's got one of the best defensive metrics of all time. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then when you use these just raw stats, it doesn't account for the changes of pace over time or the rules or the equipment. None of that stuff is accounted for when you just say, oh, he had whatever sort of stat that makes him the GOAT, whatever argument somebody wants to make. It's just something I find laughable when people just don't account for that. They just, to the word that you use, statistician, anyone can just read numbers off a piece of paper. It doesn't make you, talk basketball any better by just reading PER is high or whatever. You're taking somebody else's value system that they've created this formula with, and then using that as your marketing metric for why somebody's the GOAT. I don't think that's wise, in my opinion, to do that, because you could just say that it's essentially you just agree with Hollinger or whoever made PR or whoever made all these other advanced stats. Essentially, you just believe you're just taking Hollinger's case that somebody's the GOAT or the most efficient or the whatever rating. But yeah, thank you for calling in, Phil. Since you brought it up, how bad do you think that they lost when they came on that debate? You there, Phil?
Yeah, I'm here. Um, I forgot what his name is. He usually wears the baseball cap. Uh, he was on that debate, but I thought he did an excellent job shutting them down. But if
Sports and
I was
fitness.
there,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm talking. But if I was there, it would just be a simple, just a simple question: game for your life. Who you picking, MJ or LeBron? Who's going to get the best out of your teammates, as far as sheer will, um, and what I call a reverential fear? It's like, man, I don't want to let this guy down. This guy has the heart of a champion. To me, you know, I would rather, Jordan was more of a leader of men to me. Than now he might have did it, you know, today. I don't think players would have been able to handle playing with Michael because what he required, a lot of them don't really do because when you're in the league where they have to force you to play 65 games, I mean, it's ridiculous, man. Because why does the league have to force players to play 65 games? How pampered have they gotten? How spoiled have they gotten? It's gotten to this point. And I was watching Hubie Brown. He used to have videos. I think he had a video where he talked about the changing of the how the rules of the game changed and what Michael had to play through. And a lot of LeBron fans try to debunk that, but when you look at what Jordan had to go through as far as hand checking and getting beat up in the lane, they have documentaries about it, about the Pistons. It was just a tougher route, a tougher um, time in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. It was a lot harder to go in the lane. Um, you there was things that you could do that you really can't do now because the players are just extremely sensitive. It's all about them. They're just a bunch of divas, and it really annoys me. And I think that's why a lot of people are, you know, appreciating a young Anthony Edwards because he's a guy that really doesn't back down from accountability or back down from any other player, and he really believes that he's the best. And I could appreciate that. And the last thing that I'll contribute to this is I just don't understand why Clutch Sports paying people in the media is not a bigger story than what it is. And I think they put that PED story to swept it under the rug also. Why aren't these things being brought up a little bit more, especially with the Clutch Sports? Because there's a video of Molly I think it was Joy Taylor exposing Shannon Sharp right in front of his face on the show, saying, "Hey, I know why you're taking this stance. That check is pretty." I forgot what she said, but I'm pretty sure you guys have seen it. I'm trying to figure out why that's not a bigger story, than it actually is.
All right. Well, thank you for calling, Phil. I
Thank you.
appreciate you calling in. Yep.
Thank you. Yep.
Have a great day. There's a super chat for Uncommon. He says, has the analytics revolution contributed to the sharp decline in the product? I'm tired of nerds disrespecting the mid-range and post-game. What do you have to say about that?
I think absolutely. To me, the whole analytics thing is probably one of the worst things that happen in sports, just for the simple fact that to me, it gets players overthinking the game. And to me, basketball is really just, well, sports in general, it's a game of instincts. And when people talk about IQ, that's what I really equate IQ to, is great instincts for the game. It's reactionary, and it's based on, practice and experience. The amount of practice that you put in, so that once you get to the game, everything becomes instinctual. But to me, the whole analytics thing has really got players overthinking. It has us in this 3-point revolution thing, where this is why you see so many blowouts to me, which is not fun to watch. It's because, it basically becomes which team is hot from three and which team is not. And a lot of times teams aren't smart enough to understand, okay, well, if the 3-point isn't falling, well, we can still stay in the game by making some twos versus keep chucking up threes and getting even further behind. So, yeah, I think analytics is one of the worst things that happen to sports in general.
Absolutely. Do y'all have anything else you'd like to talk about, or you guys, nobody else is calling in? Is there anything else you want to talk about before we start shutting this down? Or
Yeah, I wanted to chime in on the super chat about the like they said, trying to get away from the mid range and the post game, because that's actually something that I've been speaking on for quite a while now. With analytics, yeah, they want to say, oh, well, if you take the mid range, it's a lesser return than if you take a three. Well, yeah, if you're only looking at percentages, but that's not how basketball is being played. The reason being is, look at all the great championship teams. When I say from the modern era till now, what championship team won the championship without having a player who was great in the mid range and could post up and get fouled? Because again, when you take away those three dynamics, you ultimately make your team predictable to what? Selling for threes and layups and transition points. Well, that's not going to beat a great team, because look at the Golden State Warriors, for example. Yeah, on the surface, you would say, oh, they're a great three-point shooting team. Well, actually, they do more to shoot the three. Like, their first championship, they had Harrison Barnes, they had Sean Livingston. What could they do? Post up, could hit mid-range shots and make their free throws. Okay, and their two championships with Kevin Durant. I mean, that's self-explanatory. We knew he was great in the mid-range and posting up, making his free throws, but he was also great at the three ball and getting to the lane as well, which made them so deadly and potent, just like their death lineup, right? But if you just go through and look, every team has had that guy that could post up, hit mid-range, and also make their free throws after they got fouled. Like, you can't just try to eliminate that aspect of basketball and say, "Oh, we're just going to do layups and threes." No, that's AAU basketball. So yeah, I like uncommon spoken, like you said too, Don. I just want to echo that point.
yeah, and I had talked to the FYF sports debates guy, Lamont. He came on my show the other night, and I asked him. I said, "Why do people um, ignore the post game, particularly?" And I know he's a college coach, and I had asked him why Jokic has been killing Gobert for the most part in the low post, and why people don't do it. He says that people just aren't skilled enough, and that the defenses are able to guard it a lot better. But at the same time, and again, I even said this to him, I'm not equivocating me or equating me to my pickup games to the NBA, but I do it in a pickup game, and I can't be stopped either. So I wonder if it's just that people are too skilled, or just people aren't skilled enough in the low post that they just ignore it. I think they just ignore it, to be candid. I think they just give up on it, and they don't really practice it.
Wait, Dart. Not to interrupt. What was his reason? He said he just doesn't think that they're skilled.
He said defenses are too skilled, and they stop the low post game.
That's a flat out lie.
Yeah.
He flat out told a lie. Like, how is the defense too skilled when the offensive player ultimately dictates where he wants to go? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. But I want to just make sure I heard that correctly. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean that's what he said, and he's a college coach, and I'm not saying, I'm just saying he has some experience and merit to say that versus me, because I don't do that. So, but I would think to your point that I think that people are just not as good offensively in the low post as well, because when they do, you got the Jokic's of the world. Not to say that he's not exceptional, um, but I think that it just people are ignoring it more than they used to, just from the outside looking in and not really being an expert on how to play the game.
Yeah.
Would you say that? What's your take on that, Uncommon? Why aren't people doing it?
Well, I mean, I think it's well, number one, I think it just doesn't look as glorious, maybe. But I think when it comes down to it, people just don't have the footwork, which is why you see so much traveling and stuff. Well, uncalled traveling, but you see so much traveling in the modern NBA. It takes a lot of effort to develop that amount of skill to be a truly effective low post player. And I don't know how anyone could say that defenses are too skilled because, to me, a skilled low post player opens up so many more options in offense than just playing on the perimeter. That adds another dimension to what's possible in the game if you actually have a skilled low post player. And again, we're talking about Jokic. To me, Jokic is an exceptional player, but I think part of him being an exceptional player is because he did develop a post game. A
Yeah,
lot of those moves down there, it's like he can always get off a shot. And it's not just because he's a great shooter or because, he has a little hook thing. It's because his footwork is good as well. And, you just don't see great footwork in the modern NBA to that degree. And I think, I don't know, again, if it's because, it's just not as glorious looking to be a post player or because the analytics have said that playing in the post isn't good. But, you know, um, yeah, I think that's false. I don't think it's because defenses are so great that you can't be a post player. I think that's ridiculous.
yeah, yeah, and one of the things that he brought up, I guess he won a national championship. I think he is like a I saw something about it. It's like this, and I don't understand how this is categorized, but either way, a national championship is still a national championship, no matter what level you're on, and especially at a college level where these guys are better.
Uh,
Um, but uh, but he was talking about trying to guard a 7-footer that was a post player, and he said that they just would double him and make him try to pass out. So maybe he's talking more about the help defense too. I don't know, but I wasn't all the way sold on it either. To the point of is I think that I think I get what he's saying, and I think there's something to it. I'm not saying that maybe that's not part of it, but I do think it's more that people just don't practice the post game as much as they used to. I think that's
exactly.
yeah.
And I feel like when you talk about and I think a lot of it has to do with the post players' ability to read. I think the thing that made players like Michael Jordan, and Akeem Olajuwon so great is you can fill out the defense and really kind of react to that double team coming before it gets to you. So I think a lot of it has to do with the post players' ability. How much skill and IQ, so to speak, they have for the game being a post player. Because I don't think you could just double, a great post player and render him ineffective.
No, Uncommon, that's a great point because, like you said, it allows you time to fill out the defense. But not only that, when you're playing out the post, you can dictate the cadence and the tempo of the game. Prime example: the 2014 Spurs annihilated the Miami Heat in that finals. But if you go look up the Dallas series, Dallas took them to 7 games. Why? Because they were not an analytic-based team. They played at every level, at every aspect of offense, whereas they were posting Dirk or using the mid-range with Monte and Vince Carter. I mean, they were hitting them in the multitude of ways. The high screen, the high pick and roll, off-ball screens, like they weren't predictable. Now, when I was looking at it in depth, they were kind of letting Monte just, hey, we're going to stop Dirk. Monte, if you beat us, you beat us. Well, Monte was beating him, but Monte was also getting other guys involved, which led to them going 7 games. And that's the point. When they went against the Miami Heat, they totally disrespected LeBron's jump shot. Do I got an echo?
Yeah, I think it's Jacob here.
Oh, okay. But yeah, they were like totally disrespecting his jump shot. And
I think
Ray Allen would try to come off those down screens. They would completely take him out of the game and then throw the ball back to LeBron, and LeBron would just settle for an ill-advised jump shot or try to drive in into the teeth of the defense, which ultimately that's what they want you to do. Like he refused to play in the post like he was doing in 2013, which also led to them getting annihilated. So no, that whole they're not as skilled. No, that's a lie. That's nothing but an unbiased opinion, because when you practice the post game and you actually utilize it, you can ultimately control the pace of the game, and it keeps the defense honest as well.
Jacob, welcome. Did you have a question or a comment? There's also a massive echo. Do you have a question or comment for us?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm sorry, man. I can't understand you, but I appreciate you calling. Thank you for calling in, okay?
Hey.
Yeah, this whole the post the whole post game, it's something that I appreciated too, and especially playing that way when I play pickup games is it just kills me when I'll be playing pickup with these kids and they act like I'm some sort of monster because I can do a hook shot and I can pass out of a double teamer from the high post, and it just kills me. They called me I played for the first time in forever the other day, and they said I'm sorry, I was reading some of the comments. It's kind of jacking me up here. They called me Jokic, and then another kid said, no, he's better than Jokic. It's no, I can just shoot a hook shot and pass the ball. It just kills me that these kids think that having a hook shot in some moderately okay low post game is, amazing. And when it was relatively commonplace 20 years ago. But yeah. But okay. Y'all have anything else you want to talk about, or you good to get out of here?
Yeah, that's pretty much that's all I got for this segment. I got some yard work I got to do.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
All right, Uncommon, you have any last words for the people?
Same as always. Keep supporting the channels that's giving honest takes and giving the real about these fake narratives that continue to be propagated, and looking forward to seeing everybody next time.
Absolutely. Hoop Guide, you got anything for everybody?
Man, let's continue to build on the facts and the truth, and let's continue to demolish these lies and these narratives. And hey, at the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Yep, I want to thank you all for coming. And just to remind everybody, this is the last day to sign up for the MJFB Summer Debate League. I need your names for your top 10 players of all time, your top 5 teams per year, like for example, the 96 Bulls, and decades all time for you to be able to take part. The grand prize is a $200 championship belt and the ultimate bragging rights, of course, to say that you won the double elimination tournament. That should be starting. The first round should be starting next week. And yeah, otherwise, thank you all for the super chats and in the live chat. Thank you for the support. Thank you for everybody that called in. I apologize, Jacob, I couldn't understand you, but I appreciate you calling in as well. And then, for everyone, Michael Jordan fans are the best.